Alright, so we're back with another video. This is video 4 in the series, and we're going to talk about 3 things in this video, and I'm going to try and go through them pretty quickly, but I want to give you enough information as I can. So we're going to talk about the paint that I used, some of the discoveries I had with that process, and then also we're going to talk about the dock itself over here. I've done some lighting things here, and I want to share that with you. And then we're going to talk about the fibers and some of the things that I'm going to be doing and the directions I'm going to be going with that. Okay? Alright, let's talk about the paint first. So first of all, last video I talked to you about Warhammer's Chaos Black. Wonderful prime paint. Can't say enough good things about it. I ended up using about 4 cans of this to cover the entire craft. Okay, inside and out. So it was double-sided for the lighting and the light leaks and whatnot. Then I went ahead back at the store and I picked up the Koroks White. You couldn't ask for a better color when it came to a white with a tint of gray on this body. It's beautiful. I think it was pretty much made for it. So you see a lot of people doing the white with a tint of gray. This is just right out of the can. Now, I did have some problems with the paint. And I don't want to go ahead and say it was the paint's fault. I'm going to say maybe some of it was operator error. I don't know. So I had some areas where it went on beautifully. Then I had some areas where it, I don't want to say it bubbled, but it's very powdery, this paint, and you notice it when you're spraying it. And I went back to the store and I talked to them about it, and they said, well, if you're possibly standing too far away, or the nozzle of the paint is too far from the subject, then maybe there's a chance that it's getting too powdery when it's landing on the paint itself. I don't know. I'm not a professional in this when it comes down to it. I'm just telling you what they told me. So I did have to go over this a lot with a fine sanding tool, and I still didn't get some of the nicer results that I wanted. Some sides turned out really nice. This side over here, I still see some of the texture. But you know what? Number one, it's underneath. Number two, nobody else is probably going to notice it. At the end of the day, I contemplated, did I make a mistake by going with the paint can versus an airbrush? I don't know. I looked at some of the airbrush work that I did in the past, and I got some similar results in certain areas. So it is what it is. All right, so let's get into the dock. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about some of the fibers after. Okay? All right. So let's take a look at what we have here. First of all, I airbrushed the inside here, a light gray, Vallejo paint, light gray. Then I did some accents here. You can see some sky gray, some silvers in here as well, just in some of the joints, and the sky gray was a great little repair kit for some of these items over here, because eventually you start to get some wear and tear on the paint, and rather than pulling out the paint and doing everything again, you can just dab on some of that sky gray, and it blends really well. So the other thing I did was, I started off like most people do, and I ended up putting fibers in here. So I had the cool lights for the fibers, 6 across the bottom, 6 across the top. And I quickly discovered that I didn't like that for a couple of reasons. Number one, the fibers were round. If you look in the film, they're more rectangular as to what that's lighting are. So what you can do is you can crimp some of the fibers. Just get some pliers or something tough and crimp the ends to get them to look a bit more rectangular. That's not an issue. But I wasn't getting a lot of the ambient lighting in here, mainly because this surface here is raised. So when you have if you're putting the fibers down here, which mimics what's in the actual official model, they're on the top here, then you're going to lose some light. So what I ended up doing was I picked up some of these, probably seen them in some of the forums, these micro LEDs. Okay, very small. And regardless whether or not you want to use them in here, you will need to pick up some, because this is what's being used for the accent lights on the outside here. So I'll bring that up on screen just so you can see what the real destroyers look like with the accent lights. And there's probably about 4 or 5 on either side, depending on the model and depending on what you want to do. There's about 4 or 5 on either side. Now, one of the things to note about this is that these are 3-volt lights, so this is the kind of battery you're using to light these. Okay, now obviously you don't want to use these. You're probably going to be having a lighting source like a 9-volt battery or a 12-volt battery, depending on where your power source is going to be stationed. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to pick up some resistors, and I'm not an electrician, but I was able to use Google well enough to get a voltage calculator, and I was able to determine that for a 12 volt and a 9 volt, what I'd want to be looking at is a 3.3, I'll put these up on screen, 3.3 K ohms resistor was the minimum that was required to give this its authentic look, okay, its brightest light within using a battery like this, a 9 volt or 12 volt. What I ended up buying was a couple, just to experiment, and I ended up getting a 4.7 volt, and that was the 4.7K, rather, ohms resistor, and all the way up to 100K ohm resistors. And the difference is that the higher the number, the dimmer the light will be. Okay, so the ones that I actually have, the resistors that I'm using throughout here, are 10K ohm. The ones I'll use on the side, I may start with the 100K and then work my way down maybe about 25%, see where that takes me. But these on the side should not be very bright. The accent lights that you see should not be blinding to the point that when you're looking at this on film, or you're looking at this with a a video camera of some sort, that it's just so overwhelmingly bright. You want to have those dialed down. They need to be very subtle. So that's what I'm probably going to do. So again, the last thing I'll mention here is I have this lip that I put up here, and I bought some styrene strips right here. These are some you can get at any hobby store. I got these at Hobbytown USA. Of course, you can get them online, and they were $3, $4, and they're 1/4-inch strips. And I sort of added some accents here just to make it look like the rest of the craft. And there's a little bit of a ledge on here, so I'm able to sort of rest it on there. It fits really nice. Obviously, it's not permanently fastened, as you can see. And then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to use some putty back there just to seal up some of the light leak, so I don't have to deal with any of that coming through. And what I'm going to do, as soon as I get this fixed, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and so at least you can see what it looks like. So this way it gives the illusion of there's a little bit of depth here, and then also it's covering up the lights, the LEDs. There's 4 LEDs in here, the micro ones, and I'm not having to see all these bulbs. So they're high enough that they're going to give me some lighting, accent light here, and then of course there's one that I have right here that's going to give me accent light. So let's take a look at these. Okay. So again, they're not permanently fastened. I'll be doing that soon. Over here I've added 4. Okay. The real version, the real McCoy, has basically 3 on the bottom here and 3 on this side here. So on either side there's 3, and there's you can actually put some good LEDs in there, not LEDs rather, but fiber optics in there. There's 3 positions for that, so if you want to drill some holes in there, you can do that. And again, the reason why I chose to do this, because I raised them up and I wanted to expose more of the detail that's here. Okay, so you can see I'm getting, let's just turn off the lights now so you can see what I'm actually getting. Alright, so I think that's very nice. In real life, I can see on the camera here that it's not doing it justice, but in real life, these are not as bright as you're seeing. They're not washed away. Is that what you're seeing in the camera right now? There's a lot of detail that you can see, plus you can see a lot of this. This is appearing very dark on the camera, but it's not in real life. As a matter of fact, I'll put up another photo online just so you can see what that looks like. So if you want to put the blockade runner in there, it'll be nice because you'll get some good details on the side. It's well lit. The LEDs are bouncing off the walls, off the side, so they would reflect back onto the blockade runner. And once again, you don't see the lights, so I'll just tip this up. This is what you're seeing underneath there. And again, it's the bulbs are way too hard. So if you move this down, then you're just getting, again, it's brighter on screen, but you're getting a nice illuminated area here, and you're not seeing the bulbs. Okay, so that's pretty much what I've done with this. So if you have any questions on that, you can write in the comments down below. And we'll move on to finally what I'm going to be doing with the fiber optics. And we'll see, that's going to be the next big job that I have going on, so I expect that to take me some time. Okay, so the last portion of the video is going to be talking about the fibers. So you can see here, this is the first piece I actually worked with fibers on. And I'm doing something a little bit different, so I thought I'd talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And this is my own personal preference. I don't recommend that everybody do this. There's different ways to do it, but at the same time, let's get right into it. The fibers. Most people, as you've seen, what they do is they leave them hanging out. They mushroom the ends. They leave them hanging out, and then they paint, and then they go ahead and they glue, and then they crimp off the ends, or they cut the ends off with a very fine tool. In this case, I would recommend something like this. These are, if you don't have a pair, these are about 20, 25 bucks, something like that. So you get in there, and you just, right as close to the plastic as you can, and you cut it, okay? Now, the problem is that you don't get the real result of, you can get some pieces that are uneven and whatnot. I know that people are going to go, well, nobody's going to see that. Well, I'm going to see that, and that's good enough for me. So what I've decided to do was something different. It's a little bit more laborious in this case. But what I'm doing is one at a time, two at a time, etc. I'm mushrooming the ends like I traditionally would so they don't go through. And this is all 0.03 millimeter fiber. Okay, and when I mushroom the ends, my holes are about 7.9 or 7.8, give or take, millimeters in diameter. And so when I mushroom those ends, you can see that they fit perfect in there. Okay, they cover that hole, and they're nested in there. You see, like you can't get that cutting on the outside. And so, yes, it's laborious, it's bringing it through, but at the same time, you know what? It's just a job well done, I think, for me. And so you glue those on the inside, you're good to go. So the glue that I have been using, which was recommended by Hobbytown USA as one of their products, was a Maxi Cure glue, extra thick. It's transparent, as you can see, and it dries in about 10 to 25 seconds. Okay, so that's what they talked to me about fibers on that. So they have a couple of different products in that area. So I will tell you, though, I've already had one break. I did a light test on it still, but light's coming through. I probably will have some strong light source in there just in case fibers do break. And the good part is that the fiber breaks inside here, so you still get that plug. But very well, very nicely, again, that, see how nested in there they are? Okay, so you don't get that by cutting. Okay, all right. So the only other thing I'll tell you that I did and I'm waiting on, and this next video is probably going to take a while to get to, unfortunately, just because of all the fibers that I have to do and some of the other things I'm going to be doing, was I tried doing some washes on this, and it just was horrible. Okay, this is not a good model for doing washes on it, and the reason for it is that the panel lines are garbage. That's the only one thing I'll say about this model that I really didn't like, is that the panel lines are too shallow. And it has nothing to do with the paint. They're shallow out of the box. And you can see some deep ones there, the triangular shape that's in there. I wish that they were all like that. The Revell series does a really nice job with thicker panel lines, but the panel lines are very important in this model, and they just don't wash well. So I did some panel lines and washes off to the side here, which I'll continue to do throughout the rest of the model. So one of the things that I will be talking about in the next video is I did order more Vallejo pigments that have to do with this grayish or darker colors, but some gray, etc. So if you've seen the Falcon videos, you know that I'm a fan of those. They're really good. So hopefully those, I ran some tests and with some of the darker ones, and hopefully those might be able to be a good companion to this project. I'll let you know how that works in the next video. If there's something to show, I'll show you. If there's something to tell, I'll tell you. So again, if you have any comments, any suggestions, any of your own experiences that you want to share with people who are watching this as well, leave them in the comments down below. If you have any questions, I always respond to people, and I love to see some things that you guys are working on. So if you have any links, send some things over. If you have any recommendations as things that you saw that you would say have worked well for you, go ahead and post them. Thanks very much again for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you again in the next video. Take care.